Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 853, Tuesday, July the 30th, 2019. Tuesday, thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, before I get started on the important news of the day, I just want to make one final plea to Sleepy Creepy Joe. Sleepy Creepy Joe Biden. One final plea. Listen to me, Sleepy Creepy Joe. As I have said in previous videos, get out now. Get out now. It's only going to get worse. In fact, let me tell you what, Sleepy Creepy Joe, you're about to be set up like a bowling pin. Here is the situation. This is probably the last debate that Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are going to be on the same stage with Biden. The next time around, they'll probably be in the other group, and Biden will be in the group with Pocahontas, Liawatha, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie, Commie Bernie. Now, Cory Booker, they have arranged this situation for the debate so that Cory Booker is going to be on one side of you, Sleepy Creepy Joe, and Kamala Harris on the other. They're looking to take you out, just as I told you. First, Cory Booker. He's reeling. He's in low single digits in the polls. He needs a miracle, and he can't find one. The only thing he can do is steal some votes for you, Creepy Joe. He's coming after you, and you have no way to defend yourself. He's got the China stuff, and he'll use it as if he has to. But basically, he's going to hit you on race. Oh, that's right, Creepy. He's going to hit you on race, and you can't defend yourself. You're an old white guy with a record. And Cory is going to remind everyone. And he's going to make you out to be a racist. And what are you going to do then? You've already proven you can't defend yourself. You couldn't defend yourself against a woman. You're not going to defend yourself against Booker. He is a media hound. He loves the spotlight. He'll probably take you down in Spanish. He's going to be coming to cut your legs out from underneath you. And when he gets done with you, look who's going to be on your left. Kamala. She's got a lot of problems. She's lost 3 points in the last 2 weeks. She's losing ground to Liawatha. She needs something big to happen. She needs some points, and there's no one else to get any points from, except for you, Creepy Joe. She's coming after you too. You're going to get tag team. Tag team. And what are you going to say to these two people of color? Nothing. They're going to be calling you a racist, and you'll have no defense. You'll be completely defenseless. You pretty much are mentally defenseless. Or you're defenseless because of your mental deficiencies. It's only going to get worse. And if you stick around through that debate, it's likely that if Booker feels desperate and doesn't think that he's gotten the points he needs, he'll start dropping the China stuff on you, which is already starting to seep its way into the mainstream. Take my advice, Creepy Uncle Joe. Drop out. Drop out. Do not take the stage for the next debate. You are being set up. They're going to take you out. They're not just going to take you out, but when you walk away after you've been taken out, you're going to spend the rest of your life having been labeled by your party as a racist. And they're going to put that China story on the front page for you. You better get out now. Get out now, Uncle Joe. Creepy, Sleepy Joe Biden. Hope you're listening, and I hope you take my advice, because they're coming for you. It's a setup. It is a setup. Now, let's get on to the news of the day. Yesterday, Joe DiGenova was on WMAL radio, as he is pretty much every morning. In that radio interview, he said that, well, he said a couple things, but the two things I focused mostly on was, first of all, he said that John Durham is moving very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Just as I suspected. I don't think that they want to drag this thing out. I think they want to get to the bottom of it, and I think they want to get to it pretty quick. That's why they moved him into Washington, gave him a larger office and a larger staff. And we know that he's hot on the heels of Mifsud. In fact, DiGenova says he's already interviewed Mifsud. He's probably interviewed a lot of other people as well. He has a grand jury, and as I understand it from DiGenova, he does have a grand jury, and he has been taking witness testimony in that grand jury. He's moving very, very quickly. That's good news. But the next thing that DiGenova says is that he's being told that the release of the documents that have been declassified, those releases will begin on Wednesday. That would be tomorrow. That they will begin tomorrow, Wednesday, July 31st. And these will come in tranches. And this is going to be primarily, initially, it's going to be the buckets that Devin Nunes has referred to many times. The buckets, which include the 302s. It includes the FISA applications on Carter Page and various other things that a lot of people are interested in seeing. So, according to Joe DiGenova, Bill Barr is preparing for release beginning on Wednesday, tomorrow, with the first tranche of documents from Nunes's bucket requests. So we will see if that happens. That would be very good timing, by the way. And also, I think DiGenova said that this will be a lot of the closed-door testimony that was taken by the House Intelligence Committee when Nunes was the chairman of the committee back in 2017. So it looks like we'll be getting a lot of those witness testimonies, the 302s, obviously the FISA applications. I don't know if we'll get the memos, the Rosenstein, the three guideline memos, but we'll probably get something like that. But anyway, that looks like the big news of yesterday, that Joe DiGenova saying on WMAL that the declassified documents are going to begin being made available tomorrow, Wednesday, July 31st. And this should definitely be something that we're all looking forward to. Probably a lot of things probably take us and other people a lot of time to get through these things, if it's what I'm thinking it is, because those testimonies take a while to read through. The ones I've read through, it takes a while to read through them. So there's quite a bit out there, but yes, looking forward to that. I hope that's true, and I hope it begins on Wednesday. And yes, we need to make that happen. Be looking forward to that. Next, of course, we have the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, James Comey, along with Mr. Potato Head, John Brennan, finally responding to the firing of D&I Coates. And, of course, the nomination, the news that Trump is going to nominate John Ratcliffe. And, of course, just as you would, expect, both Brennan and Comey are not very happy that their good old boy, who's been covering for them, Dan Coates, is going to be leaving very soon, and they really don't like who's going to replace them. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but I'll tell you, I think one of the main reasons is that one thing that Ratcliffe comes back to time and time again, almost every time he's interviewed, he brings up the leaked call between Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, and Michael Flynn, and talks about how they've never determined who was the leaker of that. And as we've talked about this before, that's not something that should be hard to figure out, because we know it came from signals intelligence. There's not a lot of people that work over in signals intelligence. It's not a large number of people. You're talking a couple, maybe 2-3 dozen people that work in signals intelligence. And you can't imagine it would be just anybody in signals intelligence who would leak something like that, because if they did, the people at the very tippy top would go, hey, who leaked that? They would know it had to come from signals intelligence. It wouldn't take them long to figure out who. And that would be people like Clapper, Brennan, Comey. That would be the type of people who would immediately recognize that level of a piece of classified information being leaked to I think it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Post or the Washington Post, one of the two. A level of that, a leak of that seriousness would absolutely be something that the top people would know about. And so you would be busted if you worked at signals intelligence and you were one of the couple dozen people who work over there, and you leak that, I mean, you would know that within a very short period of time, the people at the very top would know, hey, that came from these people here. There's not that many people over there. They would sniff it out pretty quickly. So there's no way someone would do that unless someone told them to. And I can't imagine that the top tier people, a Clapper, a Brennan, or Rogers, or anyone like that, would say, hey, we want you to leak this. I just can't imagine. That's too risky. It just doesn't work, So as far as I'm concerned, that leak, the Flynn Kislyak phone call, had to come from very, very high up, as in like number one, number two man at NSA, which would have been Rogers or his deputy, or it was Comey, or it was McCabe, or it was Brennan, or it was Clapper. It was someone very, very top tier who knew there could not be anybody above them. So it's not going to be hard to figure out, and it's going to be one of those people at the very top. It's going to be either Clapper, Brennan. Well, actually, Clapper, Brennan, and McCabe would probably been working together on that. Obviously, they all would have known what they were doing. Which one of them physically made it happen, I don't know. But they all three would have been in the know about something like that. This is not something that you could just leak that type of information and not have people all over your ass, whoever you were that leaked it, unless it was permission from the very top or that it was actually leaked from the very top. And I believe it was the latter. I believe it was leaked from either Brennan himself, Clapper, McCabe, maybe Comey, but they all would have been knowledgeable that they were going to do this. This would have been something that they clearly designed to do. Someone working over there at Signals Intelligence would never have leaked something like that, because they would know it would be too easy to get for someone to figure out who it was very quickly, and they would be caught. And that is a hardcore felony, serious felony. So it had to be people very, very high up who didn't have to worry about having someone looking over their shoulder, someone above them who would call them out. And there's only a few people that occupy that rarefied air. And that would be, of course, Clapper, Brennan, Comey, McCabe. And they were probably all working together on that. So I think that this is what probably worries Brennan and Clapper and Comey the most, is that if you watch Ratcliffe, almost every time he does an interview, he brings up this hardcore felony, this leak of the Kislyak Flynn call. And he brings it up, so you can bet that on day one, as soon as the very first thing that Ratcliffe is going to do when he gets into his office as DNI, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to go to work on finding out who it was that leaked the Flynn Kislyak call. And that's why I think Comey and Brennan were commenting the way they did on this situation. And there's some very nervous people at the very tippy top, because that's exactly where Ratcliffe is going, and he will waste no time in trying to figure that out. And I don't think it'll take him that long. Well, Papadopoulos has finally cleared up this issue that he's been tweeting about for the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I've reported on it every time because I check his Twitter every day. And so over the past 2 weeks or so, I think on 2, maybe 3 occasions, he's suggested that he has this $10,000 that he was given by this Mr. Tawil over in Israel, which he thought was kind of shady, so he left it with his lawyer in Greece. It's in a safe. He believes the bills are marked, and he believes it was part of a setup. And it's obvious it was part of a setup, because when he got back to the United States, he had 8 FBI agents digging through his bags looking for the money. So the only way that they would have known that he would have had money is if they're the ones who planted the money. So, yes, this was a sting operation on Papadopoulos. He's got the marked bills. Now, his tweets have been a little hard to figure out over the past 2 weeks, and it suggested that maybe he had already turned these bills over to be looked at. But now he's clarified it. Well, actually, Maria Bartiromo has clarified it by saying that she spoke with Papadopoulos and that he told her that he was heading back to Greece to get the money. So he's obviously been given the clearance, because he would need some sort of clearance or documentation. Maybe they'll have a government agent go with him, escort the money back here, because he's not going to go get 10 grand of marked bills and then come back into the country with him, knowing he'll have to go through customs and they'll find the money and he'll be in trouble, right? So he has to have some cooperation with the government in order to go get that money and bring it back. You know, and I wouldn't doubt but what they send a couple federal agents with him over there to get the money so that they can actually bring the money back with him, and he can actually transfer the money into their custody. That would be, I would think that's how you would do that. So it appears now that Papadopoulos is headed over to Greece. He's going to retrieve the money, and apparently he's going to give it to AG Barr. And so my guess is that if he's going to give it to Barr, then certainly I would think that they're going to have some federal agents with him. I don't think they're going to let him go get the money, and then he's not stupid enough to walk into the airport from an overseas flight, go through customs, and have him go through his bag and find 10 grand. So he's definitely not that stupid. So I'm sure that Barr has got a couple people that will probably escort him over there to do that. So now we know it's confirmed. It's not something he's already done. It's something he's been obviously thinking about. But now he is telling Maria Bartiromo he is headed back there. He is going to get the money. They're going to bring it back here, and I'm certain they're going to find those are marked bills, and they are going to find that this was a sting, an FBI setup. And remember, this is not Comey FBI and Pryor. No. This happened during the Mueller probe, during the Mueller witch hunt. So that means that this would be Mueller's people. In other words, Wiseass. Andrew Wiseass probably is the one who put this together. And that is a big problem. Not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do that. Okay, so that, I think, clears up the issue with what's actually going on with the $10,000 and what we believe are marked bills that Papadopoulos was given by Mr. Towil. And now he's going to retrieve the money and hand it over to Barr, who's going to find out if that was marked money, if it was FBI money, and, of course, find out who is behind the frame-up. And I think we know it was Mr. Wiseass. Yes, and of course Trump is now winning really, really big on the Baltimore controversy. Of course, we know he came out and tweeted out what a mess Baltimore is, pointing out that it's Elijah Cummings' district. And so now, of course, Trump was taking a beating, and he does what he always does. He doubles down, triples down, quadruples down. He never backs off. He stayed with it, and now, of course, today he actually forced the mayor of Baltimore to go out with a camera crew and go into these areas that had been shown on that news piece that was done, which, of course, first I think was seen on Fox News, but of course now they're pulling up a PBS sort of documentary that was done about a year ago. They're looking at all the newspaper articles that have been written. They're talking to people now in the community. Everybody's admitting, yeah, Trump's right. The place has got a lot of problems. There are big-ass rats here, big as cats. It's an infestation. The place is a hellhole. It's everything Trump said it was. It's just as bad as he said it was. He wasn't, exaggerating. It is actually that bad in certain parts of Baltimore City. And so Trump has won big here because he's even forced the mayor of Baltimore to go out and deal with the situation. That's how much national pressure has been brought to the local area that the mayor simply couldn't ignore it. She herself had to go out, and she's finding exactly what Trump said is true. Other people who certainly live there know it's true. Now everybody's seeing all the stories, and all these people who called Trump a racist for pointing out this situation, we're now finding out that all these people, PBS, other news organizations, local news organizations, reporters, just regular folks, a lot of people have pointed out this problem, and it's been going on for a very, very long time, in addition to the crime rate and everything else, the low education standards. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how low the educational standards are on the test scores for schools in that area. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I saw some of it, and it's just, there's not a single, this is no lie, there was not a single kid in the entire school district that actually was able to do math at the level that they were supposed to be doing it at. Not one. Absolute zero students in the entire Baltimore City school district in the Baltimore City who can actually do math at the level they're supposed to be performing at based on the grade. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. So once again, Trump wins big, doing what he always does. He tweets out something, drives everybody nuts. They accuse him of being crazy. And then, of course, after a couple of days, when everybody's had a chance to check out what he says, they find out he's right. And he wins big, and he does it time and time and time again. And the media falls for it time and time and time again. Another big victory for Trump. Attorney General Barr has overturned the asylum decision. And of course, this is important because this limits the migrants who are seeking asylum based on family ties. This is how a lot of them have been getting into the country. They've been using this. I don't know who put this in there. I didn't even know it was in there myself. About where you can claim that you're the victim of gang violence. And that's what a lot of these people have been using to get into the country. But the problem is, I didn't even know. Again, I didn't know this is true. This has never been true. I don't know who slipped this in and when they slipped it in. But this somehow was slipped in to the immigration law. And I have no idea how, because it was never that way. You can't claim that you're being targeted by a local gang. It has to be a government. It has to be the government. Or there could be like a war going on, or some sort of counter-revolution or something, and you're in an area where maybe some juntas have taken over, or some strong man has taken over, and you're facing tyranny and you're being oppressed, or something like that. It has to be some sort of a government force. You can't say that victim of gang violence. Not that that's good or anything, but it's never in the past would that ever qualify for asylum. But somehow that found its way into immigration laws. I have no idea who slipped that one in, but obviously Barr has discovered that, and he has overturned that. So no longer can you use that case, and that will help tremendously, because overwhelming number, over half of the people claiming asylum are using that to try to gain asylum, and they have been successful because that's been somehow put into the law. Well, now it's gone, and so that should help a lot. And just in general, on this whole issue on the southern border, you got to hand it to Trump. He has done a masterful job, and Barr has been right there by his side, and there's been some pretty good Republicans by his side as well, because Congress has done everything they can, particularly the Democrats, but some Republicans as well, to block him from being able to solve the problem on the border. But now if you look where we are, Trump has won big. He's now going to get to build the wall because he fought his way all the way to the Supreme Court to be able to use the military funds to build the wall, which he always should have been able to do. He just had to go through these court battles to be able to prove that he can do it, which we all know he could. We all knew it would end up this way, and thank God it moved through there quickly, and the Supreme Court made a quick decision, and of course now that's taken care of. So Trump's going to get the wall, we're going to get the wall, and that's a huge help. But so Trump definitely, by fighting and fighting and fighting, has got something that's very important for the country, but also very important for his re-election, because it keeps the campaign promise that a lot of people wanted to see him keep. He is definitely a fighter. And something else, though, he also has shown how he even though the Congress and everybody else was fighting him, he still managed to get the job done. He did it by fighting the establishment, going to the Supreme Court, being able to get the money for the wall, but also he used a lot of diplomacy to force Mexico, hey, either you start putting some troops on the border and stop this stuff, or else we're going to hit you with tariffs. It worked. And right now, they've got 16,000 Mexican troops on the border, and supposedly another 10 or 12,000 more are coming. So he applied the pressure, using diplomacy to get Mexico to finally do something on their end. He also got this deal signed with Guatemala just this past weekend, or late last week. So, I mean, two great moves on the diplomatic side, and also fighting it through the Supreme Court and winning there, really has allowed him to make a lot of progress on this issue. So despite the fact that he was being fought hard by the demo commies, the deep state, never Trump Republicans, and those types of people, he still managed to overcome all of that and succeed in a very big way. I'm telling you, he's the best president of my lifetime. I've never seen a president fight this hard, win this much, with so much opposition. It's just absolutely extraordinary that he has been able to do what he's been able to do facing what he's been facing. On top of that, having these constant investigations over his head, being accused of being a racist and everything else, constantly being threatened with impeachment and all this other stuff. It never ends despite all this. I mean, most people would not have the ability to handle that kind of stress and even wake up every day and try to move on. Most people would just say, screw it, man, I'm out of here. This is too much for me. But Trump, it doesn't seem to faze him. He takes all this and still manages to succeed wildly and be the most successful, extraordinarily successful president of my lifetime, despite the fact that he's got so much dumped on him, and he still manages somehow to power his way through and win. He's superhuman. The man is literally superhuman. He's got nerves of steel. Nothing seems to affect him. I mean, he just seems to, no matter how much you throw at him, he just keeps charging. He's clearly extraordinary, beyond. He's not normal. He's beyond normal. He is like the Michael Jordan of. He's like the Michael Jordan of politics. He just really can't be stopped. You know, if any of you remember the days of Michael Jordan, you know, who really could not be stopped. The only thing you do with Michael Jordan is try to keep him under 30 a game. So anyhow, congratulations, Trump. Another good move by A.G. Barr, who's been a great attorney general up to this point, and I think we're going to be pretty impressed with him, because it sounds like he's got Mr. Durham working on the fast track to bring the perps to justice. Well, we have Ilhan Omar. Of course, we can't go a single freaking day without her putting up a stupid tweet, and this may be one of the more disgusting ones that she's put up. In this particular tweet, she's praising that a-hole that beat Rand Paul up. I don't know what he used on him, a shovel, a stick, I don't know what, but he cracked 6 of Paul's ribs, and he had fluid in his lungs. Pretty dangerous situation. And so Omar tweets out basically praising Rand Paul's attacker, and of course Rand Paul's office, Senator Paul's office, had a pretty sharp retort to that, and very well deserved. This woman is clearly unglued, you know, and I just can't wait for her to be dealt with one way or another, forced out of Congress because of. I certainly hope people are investigating these things we're hearing. I mean, you know, it sounds to me like she's got some tax fraud issues and some other issues. We don't know who her husband is. She's marrying people, divorcing people. We don't know husband A, husband B. I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on. But somebody needs to investigate this and figure it out, man. And shut her down. She's dangerous. She's dangerous to the Republic. And we need to get rid of her. Rid of her. I mean by voting her out. Throwing her out, prosecuting her, whatever. Forcing her to resign. I don't care. Just, we need to be rid of her, politically speaking. Well, an interesting document has come out now, and this document came from Mr. Clevenger, the lawyer for Mr. Butowski, and it has to do with documents he requested regarding the lawsuit that he's filed on behalf of Mr. Butowski, which we've been talking about. So they get these documents, and they're FBI documents, and in these FBI documents, we basically see a series of emails with James Rybicki. And of course, James Rybicki was the deputy chief of staff to Comey. He was Comey's deputy chief of staff. And he's come up before. About a year ago, there was some emails from Judicial Watch that we were talking about that suggested that he may have been acting as kind of a middleman between Comey and the DNC. Because he was given Rybicki instructions to look into the DNC and get with some people from the DNC to talk about the email situation. And that was about a year ago, and it's not totally clear in my mind now. I have to go back and look at my notes. But basically, Rybicki's name came up back then. But this is something a little different. And there's basically what this is telling us is that the Obama White House essentially pushed the intelligence agencies to publicly blame the Russians for the email leaks from the DNC to WikiLeaks. And that's what this is suggesting, is that Rybicki is asked the question. Now these are Q&As. Rybicki is being questioned, and this is from a totally different investigation. This is from an internal investigation within the FBI, and the investigation is regarding Comey leaking classified information. And I assume we're talking about the stuff he leaked to get the special counsel. And so Clevenger gets a hold of these documents, and at the bottom of this page of documents, you have this quote, which is answering a question, Rybicki answering a question he's been asked, where he says, quote, "So we understand that at some point in October of 2016, there was, I guess, a desire by the White House to make some kind of public statement about Russia's," and it ends there, the bottom of the page. And the next page, completely blacked out. Completely blacked out. But it's not too hard to figure out what they're talking about. And essentially what he's going to say, if we ever see the unredacted version of this with it not blacked out, he is basically going to say that the White House wanted to make some kind of public statement about Russia's either interference in the election or Russia involvement in the hack of the DNC, the giving the emails to WikiLeaks or whatever. That's essentially what they're discussing. So that's why we know it's probably in the blacked out section. The whole next page, though, is completely blacked out, which means it was probably follow-up questions. And so we need to get the rest of that document completely free of redactions. And hopefully that will happen. But I've always suspected Mike Rybicki since about a year ago may have been another one of the intermediaries between the Hillary Clinton campaign and the FBI. Obviously, we know that there was multiple intermediaries that the Right Reverend Clinton was using on her end, but we can certainly suspect that there had to be people from the FBI or CIA who also were using intermediaries to communicate with the Hillary Clinton campaign because they were working in this plot together. Now we know the Right Reverend Clinton was using Cody Shearer to go directly to the State Department and provide his dossier and other information there. We know that Shearer was giving his stuff to Blumenthal, and that Blumenthal was giving it to Jonathan Weiner. And keep in mind, Cody Shearer, who was he working for? Hillary Clinton. Then we have Blumenthal giving the stuff to Jonathan Weiner. Who does Blumenthal work for? Hillary Clinton. Who gives the stuff to Jonathan Weiner? Who goes and gives the Shearer dossier to Steele, who then turns around and gives it to the FBI. And who does Steele work for? Hillary Clinton. Then Steele also turns around along with Weiner and gives information to Victoria Nuland at the State Department, who funnels it through Kerry's people, through the State Department, back into the FBI. Then we have, of course, Confusion GPS. Who are they working for? Hillary Clinton. And who have they got working over there? Nellie Orr. What's Nellie doing? Nellie is taking information, including dossier information. She's passing it to her husband, and he's passing it from his position in the DOJ, Bruce Orr, into where? The FBI. And who's Nellie working for? Fusion. And who do they work for? Hillary Clinton. If you track this down, you'll see that all the various individuals who were pipelining all the dirt into the State Department, the FBI, to the media, and the whole 9 yards were all working for Hillary. They were all on her payroll. So we know the Hillary side, who she was using to push this stuff. What we are trying to see now is who was on the FBI or intelligence side, who was sort of acting as an intermediary or communicating with someone who were communicating with the Clinton campaign, because you just know it's there. It's just a matter of time. And I think Jonathan Weiner may be that person. And at this point, learning what we're learning now, and especially if Papadopoulos comes back from Greece and we find out that that money was marked, and I believe it probably was, and it was a sting on Pops, there should be, well, obviously Weissman should be arrested on the spot along with all his friends. But in the meantime, Lindsey Graham needs to wake up, and he needs to subpoena Wiseass immediately. Mr. Wiseass needs to be subpoenaed immediately to come into the Senate Judiciary Committee and answer some damn questions, because his Uncle Bob certainly couldn't answer any damn questions. Weissman and Lindsey Graham needs to get Weissman in there, Wiseass, to answer some questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See ya. Bye.